U.S. Representative Marie Newman, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Marie Newman is a freshman member of the U.S. Congress representing Illinois' 3rd Congressional District, which covers the southwest side of Chicago and surrounding suburbs. Among her other assignments, she serves as the U.S. House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, which is a very timely role given President Biden's massive infrastructure initiative. Tomorrow, she'll be joining Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and an array of other Illinois elected officials at a freight facility in Bedford Park and at the 95th Street CTA Red Line station to talk infrastructure. Good to have you with us, Marie. You're just getting your wings going with as a freshman, but you're already pretty busy. I wanted to really focus first on the topic of the day, the news of the day, and that's the meetings and the traveling you're going to do tomorrow with the Transportation Secretary. What is the key thing? What is your key takeaway that you want people to know about this visit tomorrow?
You know, I think it's important to note that what we like about this visit, it is the convergence of what everybody's concerned about, is building an infrastructure plan that is framed in equity and the green economy. And we're thrilled that the secretary is really interested in those things as well. We're going to bring him to the 95th Street station on the Red Line to show him how the CTA has addressed accessibility issues. Interestingly enough, and it's hard to believe, not all transit stations are ADA accessible, which is infuriating, right? So Senator Duckworth has introduced in the Senate, and I've introduced in the House, the ASAP bill that would shore up all of those stations. And so we're going to spend a little time talking about that. And then we're heading over to the intermodal CSX Beltway Railroad Center in Bedford Park in my district to talk about the CREATE program. And you all know what that is. That's the public and private consortium of railway carriers, as well as public transit and the whole of government. And they've done just tremendous work. And so we're going to talk about that very unique program to the secretary.
So these are both existing projects. These are, as you said, there's been some work already done on the CTA, obviously a lot more to do in terms of accessibility. Right. What do these existing projects have to do with Joe Biden's forward-looking plan that the initiative he wants to get through Congress?
Right, so we're looking forward, right? So the Build Back Better program, the premise of it is to make sure that we become a world-class infrastructure country again. Right now, we're the 13th, if you can believe that. And it's not just that we are interested in being number one. We need to bring this country into the 21st century and start electrifying our railways and our buses and our transit systems and make sure we have a greener environment, but also get people back on transit. That's the fastest and soonest way we're going to get to some of our green goals and address this climate crisis. Similarly, we have transportation deserts everywhere. Right in my district, Laura, there's like 15 of them where people, public transit starts here, and then you can go miles before you can pick up public transit. Filling in those gaps will allow people to get to their jobs and build their businesses.
And potentially, how much money? I know this is still a huge moving target, but how much money could we see coming to Illinois, coming to your district if this plan is successful?
Well, right now, and we know this can change, but right now the bipartisan package looks like the American Jobs Act, the infrastructure portion of that will be 1.2 trillion, and it could be in the billions, but we haven't, obviously it hasn't gone through committee yet completely, so we have to do that work yet, but we could see billions. It would be very significant. This Jobs Act could create anywhere between 1 and 3 million jobs, frequently green union jobs.
Okay, 1 to 3 million jobs in Illinois?
No, not in the country, Laura.
Country, okay. Lynn.
Sorry, Laura. So here's the thing. I like to get real here, Congresswoman Newman. Freshman, and we do want to hear about your freshman year. And I just want to do something. And this is the wonderful thing of live shows. I just want to make sure, Mike, are you okay if we don't get to you until the top of the hour? If not, we could juggle things around. We're live. and we can make maybe some adjustments. Are you good to hang out until we talk to you? If not,
Yeah, sure. Is it, can you hear me okay?
we can hear you, and you're on live. And so now everyone at least sees Michael C. Bender, the author, who we're going to get to a little sneak preview. But you know,
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to just pop in back in at,
introduce you. We'll do this formal. Here's what's great, Laura and Congresswoman. This, by the way, you should too meet Congresswoman Newman. Meet Michael Bender from the Wall Street Journal.
Hello, Michael.
hi there.
And isn't this kind of great? We have our little community up at the table. So Laura, tonight we're all at the table, except we're going to first talk to Congresswoman Newman. So Michael,
Yeah,
stand.
of course. Mhm.
Why? Maybe I could get some sense of what reality is. You're one of the progressives, Congresswoman, and the progressives may not like the deal. It only takes 4 of you in the House to hold up the bill. Now, Bernie Sanders said it's okay with him. You're a progressive. So before we start spending the money and talking about this project and that, are you going to be in, even though it's not everything that the progressives who you're a part of wanted?
Right. So let's be clear, all of the work we've done, Lynn, in the last 6 or 7 weeks. So our chair, Pramila Jayapal of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, has done a lot of groundwork to make sure our priorities were in the American Families Act and in the infrastructure bill. What we have learned last night in this final round of negotiations is that indeed those priorities are in there. So I'm very happy to vote for both of these things. They seem to be holding up.
So it's just the funding level isn't going to be what Sanders wanted.
Oh, it wasn't the original level, but I think we all are pragmatists, right? We know that we were never going to get to that top number, but you have to ask for a big number to get to the middle number.
Okay, so if it's good enough for Bernie Sanders and it's good enough for Representative Newman, do you think it's going to be good enough for even the people who are more to the left than you are? Do you think there's going to be a problem here?
No, I think that, so here's the great thing about the Progressive Caucus is that we stay very knitted together, and we've had these discussions. In fact, I'm part of the executive board of the Progressive Caucus. I'm vice chair of communications, and we had expressly this meeting to discuss what are we willing to do and what is the work that's going on to ensure that our top 5 priorities are in these bills. And it appears that everything is hanging together based on what the reporting we're hearing even as early as this morning. So I assume we're going to be fine. And for the record, you're right, Lynn, it didn't get to the number that we wanted it to be, but I think we all knew that.
Okay, so one of the things, so our listeners now, Marie Newman ran as the outsider. She was the outside agitator. She defeated Congressman Dan Lipinski. I covered his father, Bill Lipinski. You know, I go back and I know the district. And so now you became an insider, and you were mad at Nancy Pelosi because she didn't want people to work on the campaigns of people like you who challenged incumbent Democrats.
Right.
So now that you're there and you've been a freshman, do you see things a little differently? And could you tell us the 2 things that you learned that you wouldn't have thought you knew now that you are actually in office and you're part of the establishment that you ran against?
So interesting. I can tell you things I've learned, maybe not exactly neatly in those buckets. So I'll share a couple of examples. One is that on my committees, on T&I and on small business, there are some moderate Republicans that you can actually have agreements with. I didn't think that was possible, so that was good news to me. You know, on the second side of things, I can see, and I actually said this in my primary, Lynn, and we may have even had this chat about that. Not every primary should happen. I was challenged. My predecessor happened to be to the right of the district and wasn't in alignment. I still maintain that, and we're much more in alignment now. There are primary challengers that will come in where they're not completely in alignment with the district, and it's America. Everybody should run who wants to run, but I don't necessarily support every single primary. So I guess what is not a surprise to me is that not every primary should be looked at equally. Do I welcome some primaries? Yeah, there probably are some that I haven't analyzed any of them yet, but there are probably some that I will welcome. But there will be others that I just don't see how that's going to be an improvement or different.
Okay, just in how Congress works, what as a freshman, did you learn that you didn't know that you needed to know? Maybe how it works.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? The reconciliation process was very different than I thought it was a little bit more complicated, shall we say. So the good news is that it is a combination of they give you preparation and orientation, but then it's a little baptism by fire as you go through it. So that was an eye opener.
Okay, you could give us an example. I mean, something that, you know, that you sort of stumbled over that surprised you.
Well, sometimes, you know, like what they're pretty good at is giving out of committee, giving you the full bill with enough time to read it. Now, sometimes it's a 500 or 1,000 page bill, but frequently it's a 2, 3 to 10 page bill. So they give you plenty of time to read it. That I thought we might not have that luxury, but conversely on budgets, those go down to the wire. And so you're looking at a budget as you're walking to vote on it. And that was not so great for me, because I like to spend time with a budget.
Sure.
So,
well, how do you make a rational, informed decision in a situation like that?
the good news is that frequently my my legislative staff is having one-on-ones with the committee teams on budgets. So I get little pieces as we go, and it kind of comes together as we go to vote. So the culmination of their knowledge and my knowledge together, me having talked to the authors of the budgets, all comes together as we go. But sometimes it's down to the wire, and that's a little frustrating sometimes.
So one of the things I want to get into and is that no one would have foreseen is your office on Capitol Hill is across the hall, you know where I'm going, from Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I'm guessing most of our listeners know she is so extreme that the Democrats stripped her of her committee assignments. She has said she is a Trumpite, but being in agreement with Trump policies isn't what we're about when we talk about Greene and criticize her. She has said hateful things. She's an election denier, provocateur, and one of the things she did was make a personal attack on you. And I wrote about this. You got a lot of attention. One of your children is trans, and there is a trans issue on the floor of Congress. You spoke to it. And she then kind of picked on you with your office across, and she wrote a sign. I don't even want to repeat it and give it credence, but it was nasty, especially since she knew you would see it. So my question is, since that incident, since you are across the hall, have you seen her? Is there any sense of relationship? Give us an update, please.
Yeah, so that sign is still there. It's still hateful. And all of her behavior, her hate and her spewing is indicative of who she is. And so it says nothing about the issue or the topic, which is just equality, which is, the LGBTQ plus community is not asking for more or less. They're just asking for equality. And that's very reasonable. What I will say about Representative Taylor Greene is that she's deeply broken, and I hope she gets help.
Well, it sounds like, Marie, you're saying you don't have any relationship with her. Has there been any opportunity or to talk to her, to talk to perhaps some of her intermediaries, because this, right across the hall, you've got what I would view as a very hateful response to a very personal part of your life. So
yeah, I honestly, I just ignore her and block her out. She's not a serious member of Congress. I'm there to do very serious business. My district is in trouble and needs my help. And I'm on the ground as much as I physically can be. And I am fighting for small businesses and working families all day long and twice on Sundays. So I largely ignore her.
No, she was.
Okay. Lynn, I want to stay on Evie, your daughter, for a moment. There was a wonderful piece in Teen Vogue about your relationship, about her, about your work together. Tell our audience, who is Evie? How did she come out? How did you become aware of who she really is, and how has all that informed you as a policymaker? How has that changed you as a policymaker, if at all?
Yeah, and I think that any parent would say this, that we learn so much from our kids, right? And I had been an ally of LGBTQ plus community for decades, right? But when Evie became very depressed 2 years before she came out, we tried everything. We took her to therapy. Had her in groups. We worked on programs and events and friendships and, you know, everything we could possibly do, medication included. And what she finally realized after we put her in a wonderful program to help her understand this was that she was not being her authentic self. And I don't know if either of you have ever tried to not be yourself. It's extremely hard. And think about doing that for a week, a month, or years or decades. So she, when she came out to us, I tell this story and she laughs about it a little bit because I was very excited. So we're sitting at dinner. She had been in her program for maybe a week or two. And she said, "Mom, I figured it out." And I said, "Oh, that's great, honey. What did you figure out today?" And she said, No, I figured it out." And I said, "Oh, what's that?" And she said, "I am not a boy, I'm a girl, and my name is Evie." And I threw my hands in the air and I was super excited because can you imagine the day that your child figures out who she is? It is just, it's that burden is taken, that backpack is taken off of her shoulders, and she has a whole new lease on life. You know, it's a great day. It was a great day in our family. And I'm thrilled that she's found herself and she's really hit her stride. She is doing some activism for a wide variety of topics and working really hard. So we're so proud of her.
Now, how old is she now?
She is 20.
So she was 18 when she came
No,
out?
she came out 6 years ago, Laura. She
okay.
came out, when she was 14.
Wonderful. Yeah. So my second question was, how does this affect you as a policymaker? How does it affect your work, this personal experience with her?
Right. Well, just like anything that I advocate, whether it is for, you know, working families, healthcare, economic inequity, all of those things, you know, you may or may not have had the lived experience, but you can see it up close and personal and really understand it. So what I've had the great honor of doing is seeing the highs and the lows and everything in between, so that I can understand it much better. So it has really helped me understand what someone feels like when they're being discriminated against. And it's horrible, or when they're not allowed to be their authentic self. So what I always say is that, you know, it's beyond just walking in their shoes. It's really sitting down and thinking about what we can do better as allies to whatever community needs our help.
I have a question again about the freshman experience.
Sure.
Do you realize how hard it was to pass a bill when you actually got there, to know what an uphill battle it is to do it and how rare it is to have any bill with your name on it actually get passed? Could you talk a little about that?
Yeah, you know, I was shocked because we've introduced probably 7 or 8 bills now. 2 of my bills that I co-led on have actually passed the House, Lynn. And so I had been warned about that, and I just assumed like nothing would pass. I was bracing for that. But this microloan bill that I co-led on, that would allow owners of color of small businesses, in fact, the smallest of small, to have access to capital vis-a-vis the microloan federal program. And then I created a Transparency Act that was accompanied it. I was shocked when it passed, but then I'm also surprised on some of these other things that we've put forth that no one seems to have interest in. But by and large, and this is a surprise, this is back to your first question, is that everyone thinks the Democratic caucus has all of these, you know, kind of disparate groups. We are very glued together. If you look at the statistics on this docket, frequently we have unanimous votes. So we are hanging together pretty close. And the fact that we have gotten all of these negotiations to move forward is nothing short of spectacular. So I'm actually surprised we're as glued together as we are.
Really? So yeah. One of the things though that, and I'm jumping around to just what is on the minds of so many members in Illinois who are Democrats, we are going to lose a seat. Right. What are your, given that Illinois and David Wasserman from the Cook Political Report made a point of how important Illinois is in the Democrats keeping the House, because we're one of the few states where gerrymandering is good, because the Democrats are in control of the state House, the state Senate, and the governorship. So, people in Illinois even though Barack Obama and Eric Holder lead this national charge against Republican redistricting, when the system is rigged, you have some thumbs on the scale and your favorite looks a little different in Illinois. Be that as it may. What do you see is the role of the delegation then in the Democrats? Are you working as a group, or is it going to be every man and woman for themselves in redistricting? Do you think, so if you can answer that, and then I'll tell you the second question you can incorporate in it. It's pretty clear that because of population losses that will come, that you could lose one Republican seat. You're going to lose, of the seat you're going to lose, do you see a way of making it two?
Oh, losing 2 seats?
Making there are 5 Republicans now. We'll lose a seat, and it's clear that the downstate districts, the map makers will pit people together, and probably Mary Miller, Representative Greene's friend, she is probably the one who will either come out, she will be pitted with another Republican, and that will be a big test of Trump and Trumpism. But in the meantime, do you think there's a way to even get rid of another Republican? So you have some insurance for Democrats holding the House.
Yeah, I mean, we're still going to have as many or more Democratic seats, I assume. This process is set up by a state statute. They have to follow it. I don't know as though we'll have a lot of input. I'm a freshman, as you cited, and I don't know if we'll have a lot of input. I think it's largely like a family. You get what you get, and you love and take care of.
No, if you just sit around, this is, I think, my 4th remap. You may think you just get an assignment. It doesn't work that way. You're going
what I will say, and I'll tell you what I know, Lynn, is that I'm sure at some point, and they've told me that we can provide input. My point is that I can't control what they do with that input, right? I can advocate for my amazing district all day long, but I don't know I don't know if what will happen with that input. It's largely you get your family and you take care of your family.
Okay, so we'll see how.
Of course I'm going to advocate, but and here's my theory is that, look, we're losing a seat, right? So we're all going to grow. We're all going to have a larger amount of population in each district, very clearly. So I assume it'll grow. How that grows, no idea.
Well, Marie, if you had your druthers in terms of what you want your district to look like when this is all said and done, obviously you want to keep it the same, but that's not going to happen. So what parts of the district, or how would you like to see it shift?
Ideally, I'd like to keep city and suburbs. Mm-hmm. I think it's really important to have that blend and to have that. We're a very knitted together district. And we all kind of have the same mindset, and I really like that. So my hope is that I still have city and suburbs together.
What's the proportion right now in terms of city versus suburbs?
Depending, voting population, it's somewhat the 50-50. In terms of geography, obviously the city has smaller geography than the.
Right, but you want to keep 11 and 23.
I want to keep all of them, all the awards.
Yes.
Did you have to mend fences with House Speaker Pelosi because you were critical of her move to try, and you were handcuffed for a while in getting campaign staff because of the edict of not to let rogue Democrats challenge incumbents in primaries? How did you fix that?
You know what? That's interesting you asked that, Lynn. I'm not sure we ever had a discussion about it. We have a good relationship, but I'm not sure I don't think we ever discussed it, to be honest with you. We just moved forward. I mean, honestly, my mantra as I was elected is that, have an open mind about everything and move forward. And that really has proven to be a good thing because you have a lot of work to do and you can't worry about something that happened in the campaign. It's just not worth it.
So what member do you look to as a model? Maybe someone who's a few terms ahead of you that, when I'm here another term, I want to be like so-and-so or something.
Oh, gosh, that's a really long list.
I want to, because
You know.
we're almost near the end, and I think Laura has some finishing questions before
Yeah.
we get to Michael C. Bender, the author of the new book about Donald Trump, who'll be on in a few minutes. Michael, stand by. We're going to soon get to you. But I just name me a few people or that you want to be like them when you get a little more experience.
And you know what? I'll amend that, add to Lynn's question to wrap us up. But who on the other side of the aisle, Republican? Obviously, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not someone that you can work with. But what Republicans out there who you've already started to build a relationship with that you're close to?
All right, I'll go in chronological order. So, Lynn, there's many folks in the Progressive Caucus: Pramila Jayapal, Barbara Lee, Jan Schakowsky, Ro Khanna, Robin Kelly from CBC. She's been an amazing mentor to me. So there's literally dozens. That's just a few. But in terms of Laura, to your question regarding Republicans, I've done my first 4 or 5 bills were with a Republican co-lead. So I've done work with Maria Salazar from Florida, some folks on the Small Business Committee, and I'm hoping to do more work with Brian Fitzpatrick, John Katko, and a few others, because we do agree on some things with regard to transportation and infrastructure, jobs, the economy, and making sure small business is able to thrive in this country. So there is agreement. Are there tons of things to disagree with them? Oh, 100%. But I'm trying to find some middle ground where we can get some things done.
And we'll probably be hearing more about the agreements and disagreements for quite a while to come.
Yeah.
I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for your time tonight, Representative Marie Newman. Thanks. Good luck on your big tour tomorrow, and we hope to see you again back on the show again soon.
Thank you for having me. Have a great night.